March 8, 1855. In a cramped bedroom somewhere in lower Manhattan, a dying man lay stretched across sweat-soaked sheets. Around him stood a gathering of hard-faced men, silent and watchful, like mourners who had arrived before death itself. The man was William Poole, 33 years old, nearly 6 feet tall, built like a prizefighter, and feared across New York City. 14 days earlier, a bullet had buried itself deep inside his heart. Every doctor who examined him insisted survival was impossible, yet Poole refused to surrender. As his strength finally faded, he uttered a final sentence that would echo through American history. "Goodbye, boys. I die a true American." Most people think they already know this man. After all, a version of him appeared in Gangs of New York, portrayed by Daniel Day-Lewis in one of cinema's most celebrated performances. But the film changed one crucial detail. In the movie, Bill the Butcher dies during the draft riots of 1863. The real William Poole never lived to see those riots. He died 8 years earlier, long before the Civil War erupted at Fort Sumter, and the truth behind his death was far more extraordinary than anything Hollywood dared to show. This is the story of how the son of a butcher from New Jersey rose to become the most feared gang leader in Manhattan. It is a tale of political corruption, gang warfare, ethnic conflict, and brutal street violence. It is the story of a gunfight in a Broadway saloon that created a martyr and brought an entire city to a standstill. Most astonishing of all, the man believed to have orchestrated the attack would later become a United States congressman without ever facing punishment. William Poole entered the world on July 24, 1821, in Sussex County, New Jersey. His family were hard-working people of English descent. His father earned a living as a butcher, and when William was 11 years old, the family relocated to New York City, opening a meat shop in Washington Market, an area known today as Tribeca. At the time, the district was the bustling center of Manhattan's food trade, noisy, crowded, bloody, and filled with laborers who often settled disputes with their fists rather than words. Young William quickly learned the family trade. He became skilled with a cleaver and comfortable with knives. Yet the butcher's shop taught him more than craftsmanship. It accustomed him to blood, violence, and hardship. By his teenage years, he had already developed a reputation throughout the neighborhood, not for cutting meat, but for fighting. Poole was exceptionally large for his era, weighing over 200 pounds and standing close to 6 feet tall. His bare-knuckle bouts became legendary, but not because he followed any rules. He fought viciously, gouging eyes, biting opponents, and inflicting injuries that left men permanently scarred. One newspaper report from 1846 described Poole attending a dogfight on Christopher Street. When a bystander attempted to stop the event, Poole reportedly tore the man's eye from its socket. Such stories reveal the reality behind his fearsome reputation. He was not viewed as a sporting gentleman. He was regarded as a predator. By the early 1850s, Poole had become the leader of the Washington Street Gang. Over time, that organization merged with others and evolved into the notorious Bowery Boys. To understand his rise, it is important to understand New York itself. The city was undergoing a dramatic transformation. Waves of Irish Catholic immigrants poured into Manhattan, settling largely in the overcrowded district known as 5 Points. Meanwhile, Tammany Hall, the city's dominant political machine, welcomed these newcomers, helping them secure housing and employment in exchange for political loyalty. Poole despised the arrangement. A proud native-born Protestant, he viewed the growing immigrant population as a threat to his vision of America. He aligned himself with the Know Nothing Party, a secretive political movement that sought to restrict immigrant influence and prevent Catholics from holding public office. The Bowery Boys effectively became the party's street enforcers. Their methods included intimidation, beatings, voter suppression, and occasional acts of arson. At the center of it all stood Bill the Butcher, who had closed his family's meat business and established a saloon known as the Bank Exchange. The establishment served not only as a drinking house, but also as his headquarters and command center. Standing against Poole was another rising figure, John Morrissey. Born in County Tipperary, Ireland, in 1831, Morrissey represented everything Poole hated. He was Irish, Catholic, and fiercely ambitious. Having immigrated to America as a child, he grew up in poverty, worked grueling jobs, and eventually found employment as a bouncer in New York's roughest establishments. Tough, fearless, and immensely strong, Morrissey climbed the ranks of the city's fighting world. By 1853, Morrissey had become America's bare-knuckle boxing champion after defeating Yankee Sullivan. His success attracted the attention of Tammany Hall, which employed him as a political enforcer. Morrissey also led the Dead Rabbits, the most feared Irish gang operating in 5 Points. Unsurprisingly, he and Bill the Butcher quickly became bitter enemies. Their rivalry intensified during the 1854 mayoral election. Tammany Hall supported Fernando Wood, while Poole and the Know-Nothings fiercely opposed him. Throughout the campaign, Bowery Boys repeatedly attacked Morrissey's men as they guarded polling stations. Morrissey endured humiliation and violence, and he never forgot either. On July 27, 1854, Morrissey challenged Poole to a bare-knuckle contest at Amos Street Dock. He arrived expecting a fair fight. Instead, Poole had packed the area with loyal supporters. Before the match could properly begin, Morrissey was swarmed and brutally beaten. What had been advertised as a sporting contest became little more than a carefully planned ambush. Morrissey left battered, humiliated, and consumed by revenge. As tensions escalated, violence became increasingly common. In January 1855, a dispute erupted between supporters of both factions. Jim Turner, an associate of Morrissey, confronted Tom Hyer, one of Poole's closest allies and a champion fighter himself. Weapons were drawn. Warning shots echoed through taverns. Another Tammany enforcer, Louis Baker, was beaten unconscious. It was obvious that something far worse was approaching. That moment arrived on February 24, 1855. Stanwix Hall, located on Broadway near Prince Street, was one of Manhattan's most fashionable nightlife venues. On that evening, John Morrissey was drinking in a private room when he learned that Bill the Butcher had entered the establishment. Furious, Morrissey stormed out and confronted his rival face to face. Insults flew. Tempers exploded. Morrissey then pulled a revolver and fired 3 times directly at Poole's head. Every shot misfired. Poole drew his own weapon, but did not fire. Witnesses pointed out that Morrissey's pistol had failed and was effectively useless. Killing an unarmed opponent would create more trouble than it was worth. Police soon arrived, arresting both men. Within an hour, both were released on bail. Morrissey went home. Poole made a disastrous decision. Instead of leaving, he returned to Stanwix Hall and continued drinking into the early hours. He intended to apologize to the staff for the disturbance caused earlier that evening. It was a choice that would cost him his life. Shortly after midnight on February 25th, a group of Tammany supporters entered the saloon. Among them were Louis Baker, Jim Turner, and Patrick Pordine McLaughlin. Pordine entered last and locked the door behind him. He approached Poole directly. "What are you looking at, you bastard?" he demanded, before spitting in Poole's face. Remarkably, Poole remained calm. Reaching into his pocket, he produced 5 golden eagle coins worth $500 and placed them on the bar. He offered to wager the money that he could defeat any of the men present, one at a time. No one accepted. Instead, Jim Turner shouted a single command: "Sail in." He drew a Colt revolver and opened fire. The first shot missed its target and wounded Turner himself in the arm. The second struck Poole in the leg, knocking him to the floor. Chaos instantly erupted. During the struggle, Poole and Louis Baker became entangled on the saloon floor, grappling among broken glass and spilled whiskey. Baker managed to draw his revolver. Pressing the barrel against Poole's chest, he reportedly said, "I guess I'll take you anyhow." Then he fired. The bullet tore through Poole's chest and lodged directly in his heart. Another shot followed. Baker fled. Yet astonishingly, Bill the Butcher did not die. He rose to his feet, seized a butcher knife, and attempted to pursue his attackers despite the mortal wound. He staggered only a short distance before collapsing. Doctors who examined him could scarcely believe what they found. One bullet remained embedded in his heart. Under normal circumstances, death should have come within minutes. Instead, Poole survived for 14 days. For 2 weeks, crowds gathered outside his residence as newspapers provided constant updates on his condition. Members of the Bowery Boys stood guard while visitors arrived in large numbers. Throughout much of his ordeal, Poole remained conscious. He spoke with supporters, accused John Morrissey of arranging the attack, and maintained his innocence regarding the shooting itself. Even while dying, he behaved like a commander directing events from a battlefield. Finally, on March 8, 1855, his body could endure no longer. Surrounded by loyal followers, William Poole uttered his final words: "Goodbye, boys. I die a true American." He was 33 years old. What followed was unlike anything New York had witnessed before. 3 days later, Poole's funeral became one of the largest public spectacles in the city's history. His coffin was draped in the American flag. The phrase, "I die a true American," was painted prominently on the hearse. More than 150 carriages joined the procession, while between 5,000 and 6,000 mourners followed behind. Thousands more lined streets, rooftops, and windows to watch. The crowds became so dense that one building along the route collapsed beneath the weight of spectators, killing 4 people. Even then, violence persisted. Rival gangs organized by Morrissey attempted to disrupt the procession, hurling bricks, stones, and debris at mourners as they passed. Despite the chaos, Poole was buried in Brooklyn's Greenwood Cemetery, with honors more fitting for a military hero than a gang leader. In reality, Poole was neither hero nor patriot in any conventional sense. He was a violent gang boss and an outspoken nativist, yet in death he became something far more influential, a symbol. The aftermath proved equally remarkable. Louis Baker fled New York immediately after the shooting, escaping aboard a vessel bound for the Canary Islands. Determined to bring him back, supporters of the Know Nothing Party financed a private ship to pursue him across the Atlantic. On April 17, 1855, Baker was captured at sea and returned to New York for trial. 8 men faced murder charges, including Baker, Morrissey, Turner, and McLaughlin. Attorney General Ogden Hoffman personally handled the prosecution, yet despite overwhelming public attention, justice never arrived. Baker's first trial ended with a deadlocked jury. The second produced the same result. So did the third. After 3 failed attempts, prosecutors abandoned the case. The man who shot Bill the Butcher through the heart never spent a single day in prison. As for Patrick McLaughlin, fate eventually caught up with him. In 1858, he picked a fight with the wrong man inside a dance hall. His opponent drew a pistol and killed him instantly. Once again, the courts failed to secure a conviction. John Morrissey's future was even more extraordinary. He left boxing, built a gambling empire, established luxurious casinos in Saratoga Springs, and helped create the horse racing venue that still operates there today. With Tammany Hall's support, he won election to the United States Congress twice. Later, he even turned against Tammany and helped expose its corruption. When he died of pneumonia in 1878, he too received a grand public funeral. Ultimately, this story reveals something larger than the fate of a single man. Gangs of New York captured the spirit of the era brilliantly, and Daniel Day-Lewis delivered a performance for the ages. Yet the real story was even stranger than fiction. A man surviving 2 weeks with a bullet lodged in his heart, a funeral so crowded that a building collapsed, rival gangs attacking mourners in the streets, a killer escaping conviction after 3 separate trials. That was New York in 1855. Bill the Butcher was not a hero. He built his influence through violence, intimidation, and hostility toward immigrants. Yet his story remains unforgettable because it sits at the crossroads of politics, identity, crime, and power. Long before the Civil War began, those forces were already colliding violently in America's streets. And perhaps the most unsettling part of all is that those same forces continue to shape society to this very day. If you want more deep dives into hidden worlds like this, subscribe now and don't miss the next story.